Global Islamic financial services industry is now around 3.5 trillion US dollars worldwide. So this is the amount of assets under management of the institutions offering Islamic financial services. Bulk of this 3.5 trillion US dollars lies in the banking sector, which means that within the banking and finance industry, Sharia compliant, major activity is still taking place in the banking sector. Non-bank Islamic financial institutions and non-bank Islamic finance is rather limited. About 3/4 of Islamic banking and finance assets are in banking sector. The remaining ones, Sukuk for example, and Islamic capital markets in general, Islamic funds, they would have about 19% of the global Islamic AUM. If we take out these two aspects, i.e. Islamic banking and Islamic capital markets, we are left with about 6 to 7% of the total global Islamic AUM, which is in the non-bank Islamic financial sector. And what is that non-bank Islamic financial sector? That means takaful, that means microfinance, that means awqaf, that means so many other things similar to this one. And what is the implication of that one? This means that the real activities which traditionally played a very important role in Islamic economic development, i.e. awqaf, i.e. insurance or takaful or microfinance, these are the modern forms of what happened in the past in Islamic history. Islamic banking and finance in its contemporary form is focusing only marginally on these things of social relevance. And here comes a criticism of Islamic banking. Although Islamic banking and finance has attained a globally relevant size of 3.5 trillion and it is progressing and growing with a size which is with a growth rate which is respectable. However, its social relevance has yet to come to a point where people would find a value in it. And from this point, I would like to share with you my view on what should be the future of Islamic finance. Current or the present form of Islamic banking and finance is banking. In future, we have to move away from the banking model into non-bank financial sector. This may means awqaf. Development of awqaf is very important. The city of Karachi I am sitting in right now, you go around, you find so many properties which are locked in the structures which are similar to awqaf, trust structures. Developing these otherwise very valuable properties into an asset which generates money, which generates returns for the stakeholders, that is something Islamic finance should be looking for. And it's not only in Karachi, it's everywhere in the Muslim world. So if we focus on awqaf sector, awqaf can be used for development of education, for development of health, for development of anything which has any relevance to human life. And this, in the past, in the 1960s, 70s and 80s, if I was talking about these things, people would not listen to me. Because at that time, the world at large would not put emphasis on what is known as altruism in decision making. After the Industrial Revolution, the focus was on the personal, private initiative. I would be doing a lot of effort if this activity brings me some money. Personal initiative, this is a cornerstone of capitalism. And for 3 centuries, this remained a dominant philosophy of business. Now, you talk about this thing and people would tell you that you are very irresponsible. You have to think about environment. You have to think about society. You have to even think about clean water, even if you are an employer like Institute of Business Administration. If your staff, if your students, if they don't have access to clean drinking water, you are irresponsible. So Islamic banking and finance, or Islamic finance, when we say that it should be socially responsible, this means it has to get involved in the activities which have relevance to social needs of the people. It doesn't mean that Islamic finance would become not for profit. No, Islamic banking and finance would become more responsible while generating returns for their stakeholders. Right now, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't want to go into that detail, Islamic banks are making money for their shareholders primarily. Nothing wrong with that one. However, we have to move to another regime where Islamic financial institutions are generating value for everyone sitting on the table of stakeholders. This is a view consistent with what IMF, World Bank, United Nations, Asian Development Bank, and all other multilateral financial institutions are emphasizing upon. So if Islamic banking and finance adopts this operating model, they would be consistent with the global thinking which is now driving the global socio-economic and political policy. This is the time, therefore, for Islamic banking and finance to reconsider its value proposition, to come on the side of the whole world, which is actually becoming more and more socially responsible. I hope Islamic banking and finance would become more socially responsible, in addition to being more and more Sharia authentic as well. Thank you very much.